Right, so before I start working on the wall shader, something I forgot to mention is, as you can see in our viewport, we cannot see this material even though this material has been assigned to the car, to the geometry level material path. Okay. Just as an example, if we just brought in a default principal shader and we assign that to the car, okay, you can see that there's some viewport representation of this principal shader, but for this car paint shader that we've built, there's nothing. To rectify this, what you can do is what we just have to do is, like, we add these OpenGL tags. Okay, so we have a representation of a representation of our paint, of our shader within the viewport. It's not 100% accurate, but there is a representation here, and you can add as many as you like. These tags as it makes sense to you. There's a whole bunch of options here, so yeah. Do some experimentation, and now we'll move on to our wall texture. So the wall texture is actually textures, so we'll use a base color texture, use a texture for roughness, and we'll enable texture for displacement as well. So I've already gone ahead and prepared textures for everything. So inside of Houdini, the RAT format is recognized within Houdini, so I've converted textures from, let's say if you go to CG textures and download a texture, you could open up this texture within the Houdini image viewer, and then you could save frame as and you could save it in the location where you'd like it and give it the .rat extension. That's what I did for these textures. So we use the color. Should be a roughness. And I'll use the height for displacement. Without changing any values in settings, let's do a quick test render and see what we get. And of course, it'd be a good idea if we assign this to the wall. Also, so include it in our render. Okay, so we have something coming in. Right now, the wall texture's being applied to everything that exists within this geometry level node, which includes the ground, the lamps, the shades for the lamps, everything. Of course, that's not what we want, but we're just testing right now. So turning off preview render and opt for a decent render and see what we get. So instead of us waiting here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot off a quick render inside of mplay and we'll be back. Next, we'll try to get the tires shaded or textured and move on from there. Awesome. See you shortly.